Now, I want your calls on this. Should Nigel Farage be allowed to appoint people to the House of Lords? 0207 862 2222 is the number that you need to tell us what you think. The Reform leader has called on the Prime Minister to allow him to appoint people as peers. In a letter to Sir Keir Starmer, he said he wanted the democratic disparity between the two houses in Parliament to be addressed, suggesting it was unfair that parties with fewer MPs were not as well represented. Now, it's important to remember that it's up to the Prime Minister to decide who gets a peerage, and he is not in any way obliged to elevate members of opposition parties, although they will often ask opposition leaders to nominate some individuals. So let's just take a look at the Commons and the Lords as it stands at the moment. So here we've got the Commons, fairly straightforward, 398 Labour MPs, 120 Conservatives. We've got the Liberals here, we've got 21 Independents, 9 SNPs as well. Let's not forget the SNPs. Sinn Féin, they don't take their seats, but they have 7 MPs. DUP of 4. Now, important when you look at the smaller parties, we've got the Green Party at 4. They don't have 8, by the way. That's a typo on our behalf. Apologies for that. 4 Applied Cymru and Reform have got another 4. So smaller parties. Now, what Nigel Farage is saying is that if you go and look at the House of Lords here, you've got 285 Conservative MPs, you've got 209 Labour, 181 crossbench MPs. Let's not forget the crossbench MPs because they are quite important in the Lords because they tip the balance back and forth between the two major parties. Liberal Democrats, 16 Lords, 40 non-affiliated. You've got the bishops as well. But Nigel Farage is saying, hang on a minute. There are 2 Green MPs, 2 Plaid Cymru MPs, 6 Ulster Unionist Lords, I should say, not MPs. And they're from small parties. And he's saying, well, hang on a minute, if we've got 4 MPs here in the Commons, who's representing us in the second chamber, which, let's not forget, is a legislative chamber? They have the authority to block bills, change bills, pass bills. Nigel Farage is saying, look, we have no power in that second chamber, and this is undemocratic. So, Andrea, it's no surprise that you are all for this. You want to have Lords in the chamber.
Absolutely. It's meant to reflect the makeup of the Commons, and we've got 4 MPs now, and it's only fair that we've got representation there. Do I think that Starmer will agree to it? No, because he does not want any more Reform voices in Parliament in its entirety.
OK. It doesn't reflect the makeup in the Commons at all.
No,
otherwise,
look at the Greens.
Otherwise, look at here. There are 120 Conservative MPs, when the House of Lords, they're the biggest party with 265 peers. Labour's got 398 MPs, according to this, which is by far the numbers. It's only second in the Lords.
Each party, when they're in power, they fill it with their people.
If you're talking about a democratic disparity, the disparity is having the House of Lords itself. It's a medieval monstrosity full of...
I disagree with that.
Right, full of has-beens and never-weres, and yes, some good people.
OK,
UKIP... The fact that Green DUP have got people in there.
Okay, UKIP had peers. What's happened to the UKIP peers? Because, of course, Reform used to be the Brexit party, and before that it was UKIP. What's happened to your peers? You had 4 or 5. Have they run off?
I'm confused.
I wasn't in UKIP then, so I don't know.
I'm confused. You're saying you don't want to abolish the House of Lords?
No, I wouldn't abolish it.
But in not the previous manifesto, the one before that in 2019 election, the Reform manifesto, I think you call it
it was the Brexit
promise.
Party, wasn't it? Yeah.
No, it was still before that. It was an abolition of the House of Lords. There's the Brexit Party. But now, in the last manifesto we had in this election, the one that we had just over a year ago, in your manifesto, it says replace the crony-filled House of Lords with a much smaller, more democratic second chamber. Structure to be debated. But then this is what I find interesting, because Nigel Farage is calling for political appointees.
Yes.
The next sentence is immediate end of political appointees. So which is it? Are you wanting to make political appointees or not make them, as you say in your manifesto?
Look, I've always been pro the House of Lords and the checks and balances between, the the Commons and the Lords. I think that's right, and I don't want us to be like the US. So no, I think it's right. And look, I'll never agree to abolish it, even if it had been a previous manifesto before I joined the party.
So Farage wants his own cronies. That's what he wants. He's against other people's cronies, but he wants his own cronies.
No, it's about fairness, isn't it? You know,
look,
at the time that was written, they didn't have any MPs, and now it's only fair if the Green Party, etc., can have people in the Lords. So can we.
In a couple of years, I would expect there would be.
Why a couple of years?
I'm going to explain it in a minute. Reform Party MPs, if the party's still. Peers, if the party's still around, because it's a crazy system. I'd abolish it. I'd have I think all our lawmakers should be elected. I don't think they should be appointed in the House of Lords. But if you're going to have the system, I can see the case why reform should have some peers. But the reason the Greens have got peers now is they've been a longer established party. They had an MP in Brighton for a long time.
One of them in as well, didn't she?
One of their members used to be on the London Assembly. It's because Reform's a relatively new party. You may not sustain yourselves. You may disappear like UKIP did. You may disappear like the Brexit Party did.
That's what the left hope, of course.
I don't think you will. I don't think you will now. But that's why other parties have peers, because they've been around a lot longer.
But what some people are pointing out is that Nigel Farage has been very successful, alongside the similarities with Donald Trump, in portraying himself as someone who's anti-establishment, someone who's different from everybody else. You know, you read in the manifesto, the crony-filled, we're not going to do those old-fashioned things. And now he's asking to basically be part of the establishment by having people in the House of Lords.
This is about fairness.
Saying immediate end of political appointees. And
look, this is about fairness. When they didn't have any reform peers or Brexit Party, this is about fairness. And this is about ensuring they've got a voice. Politics is about power. But this is about ensuring that Reform has a voice in the House of Lords, and they should.
I remember at the last election, Reform was really backing a fairer electoral system, proportional representation, which I would back.
I'm against that. I've always been against it.
It's gone completely quiet on it now because it thinks it can win the next election on the current system with split votes across the country. It's a strategy I understand, but you can't say it's very principled when it stood for one thing, electoral reform, and now against it because you're winning on the current one. And it's just like, you don't want cronies in the House of Lords, but let's have some cronies now. No, because the reason he'll want his cronies in the House of Lords, they won't make much difference in the voting, but he can put donors in. And party leaders do this. Labour do it, the Tories do it, the Liberal Democrats do it. I think it's a dirty system, but they do it so people will give money to the party in the prospect of getting ermine and being put in the House of Lords for life.
No, this is about it's about getting experience in the House of Lords. We need reform people in there to have that knowledge base for when we form a government. We'll be getting some ministers from the House of Lords if we form government. It's getting experience. It's having a reform voice there. Look at the polls. Look at the recent votes. They deserve a place in the House of Lords.
If you do get your wish, if Keir Starmer says, OK, I'll give you a couple of places, who would you nominate?
That's hard. I don't know off the top of my head, in all honesty. But I want somebody who literally believes in our cause, believes in Britain, and who's got a big voice and is not afraid to use it, because they will get intimidated. So it's got to be a strong character.
Dame Jenkyns of Lincolnshire.
Can you have both? Oh, yeah, of course you can. Let's see what people are saying at home. Roy is in Wolverhampton. Roy, good morning. Do you think Nigel Farage should be able to put people in the House of Lords?
I don't think any of them should. This time it was disbanded, because you look at David Cameron, he gave us the vote on Europe. When it went the wrong way and he didn't like it, he walked. So they slipped him into the House of Lords, and he's back in Parliament again. It's just a way of getting round the voters.
Look, you brought it up, Roy, but much was made, I remember back at the Brexit referendum in 2016, unelected officials, people that you can't get rid of. And now we put people in the House of Lords, give them ministerial jobs, and As Roy pointed out, you can't get rid of them.
I'm pro-hereditary peers as well, so I do...
What?
I am,
What?
yeah.
Just because you're born, usually the son of somebody who slept with somebody or gave a load of money many decades, lifetimes ago.
No, but they're not doing it for any financial gain. They do it with true life experience. And I love
life experience of the grouse moor.
No,
telling sergeants what to do.
I don't think we're going to come to the end of this, but thank you for your calls on this, and thank you two. Look, after the break, we're taking your calls on whether Farage should get to appoint people to the House of Lords. Give us a call now with your thoughts. 0207 862 2222 is the number. Nigel Farage appoint peers to the House of Lords. That's what he's written to the Prime Minister about, asking him to be allowed to do so. 0207 862 2222 is the number that you need. Do you think Keir Starmer will bend to this? Because Keir Starmer's always sort of had this feeling of it's the fair thing to do, it's the right thing to do. Maybe he's going to, say to Nigel Farage, OK, you can have one or possibly even two.
I think there will be within this Parliament. Remember, we're only a year into what's going to be a near 5 years, could be a full 5 years Parliament, and I think he will. But it's, reform in a way are a flash in the pan at the moment, right? You've got 4 MPs, two others have gone. You're in Lincolnshire, 10 councils, appears to be here to stay. So I think in a year or two, there is a case. Okay. I'd get rid of the House of Lords, and I think it's wrong, and I think
you don't like it. But Andrea loves it.
If it's there, I do see the case for reform peers.
Let's find out what people are saying at home. Mike's in Cheshire. Mike, welcome to the show. Should Nigel Farage have the ability to appoint his peers, whoever they may be, political donors, politicians, people of reform, into the House of Lords?
Good morning. Yes, at the moment, under the system we have, he should have the same rights as any other party leader. But strangely enough, I agree with the gentleman on your panel that the House of Lords shouldn't exist anyway. It's not elected. It's extremely expensive. And whatever money was saved by taking £300 a year off pensioners, imagine taking £300 a day off the Lords.
Yeah, Mike, if you were a peer, you can get 370, 380 quid tax-free per day, plus other accommodation expenses.
For life.
You're right. Yeah, for life. Yeah, for life. Although Labour wants the older peers over 85 to start going and get rid of the 82, is it, Andrea? Hereditary peers.
What Mike's saying, it is an inflated chamber. I think it's the largest legislative chamber apart from the Chinese Communist Party chamber. But it is. It is. But though I want to ask you, Mike, that isn't it always good to have that second chamber where the Commons can make a decision, but there are other people who are politically, they don't have to win an election. They don't have to say things that please the public or not, because they're not worried about their seats. And they can take perhaps a little bit more of an objective view on pieces of legislation and say to the Commons, we think you need to have another look at this or think again. They're not under any political pressure. And perhaps that is a good thing to have someone else looking over the shoulder of the Commons.
Well, you say they're not under any political pressure, but they have been appointed by politicians, and the politicians are not going to send somebody to the Lords who they know is going to disagree with either them or their party policy. Yes, we need an upper chamber, but similar to the American, let's have an elected one.
Like the Senate. Would you be up for, instead of an appointed House of Lords where people can put in their cronies, I'm using Nigel Farage's words about the House of Lords, to have an elected one? No, because you'll end up in the US where you might get obviously different political persuasions. You'll get the Lords then who would be filibustering, stopping legislation going through. And at least at the moment, they can only stop legislation going through, 3 times before it gets overturned. But you can just design that into a democratically elected chamber. For instance, the Tory peers, the Conservative peers, who are the biggest group in the House of Lords, not in the House of Commons, but they're in the House of Lords, have been knocking back Labour's
new jobs rights for ordinary workers.
All right. John's in West Yorkshire. John, welcome to the show. Do you think Nigel Farage should be able to have a couple of peers elevated to the House of Lords?
He's the only man that Joe Public wants or knows that speaks properly as Joe Public wants to hear it.
OK. But he's also the only one who said he wanted to abolish the House of Lords. And in the last manifesto, he said, if we come to power, we're going to stop political appointments. And that's exactly what he wants to do. So isn't he going back on his word?
Oh, I don't know. That's beyond me, is that? That's beyond me. But
right.
Let's talk about the boats. He says it. He says what the country thinks.
Right. Is that reason enough to have people in the House of Lords? Quite clearly, John, you think that is?
Well, why are Labour and Conservatives running scared of him?
Why are they running scared of him, Kevin?
Yeah, Johnny, well, he's on a roll at the moment. But if he was the only person, Joe Public, you said, so I don't know if you meant Joan Public as well, men and women, then he'd be getting 100% of the vote, which he ain't. So, people, I think he's, what's they're doing in the polls, about 30-odd%, so about 1 in 3. Maybe you might be right of Joe Public, but not the whole public. I think you're just wrong. You've got carried away, basically.
But Nigel's been around a long time and he's fought on these issues, such as like the gentleman online has said about mass migration, etc. And is right, is the only party leader who's brave enough to actually tackle these. And
that's not true.
No, he is.
Brexit went well. I mean, I wouldn't trust him at all after Brexit.
But is reform are going in areas where people think these things but don't say them. We are breaking through that to gain the public trust, because the public trust is lost under this government, the previous government, and
he hasn't
only
got the
reform.
Answers, though, has he?
No,
he hasn't got the answers. He can
Okay.
stir people up, but he hasn't got the answers.
Okay,
we're
veering
years away from an election.
Yeah.
Nobody has a detailed manifesto at this stage.
All right, we're veering off into a completely different subject. One worthy of discussion, but it's not the discussion we're having now. Adrian has got in touch on Facebook, says, yes, it's a democracy after all. I might not agree with all of his political views, but he's entitled to use the system just like the other parties do. Rob has said, Farage wanted to abolish the House of Lords, so which is it? He asked the question. And Paul says, no, they have only been a minor parliamentary party for just over a year. They should wait until after this parliament. Whatever your thoughts, why not pick up the phone, give us a call. Keep those messages coming.